Grandfather, thanks for coming to visit me again here on campus. As always, I am so happy to see you. I called you because I wanted you to meet my new roommate, Ron. As I said on the phone, I made the starting rotation on our college baseball team. Well, Ron plays catcher on the team, and he was assigned to become my new roomie here in the dormitory because of our similar schedules.
Well, Tommy, it's always a pleasure to be invited to visit you here at the university. Making the starting rotation on your college baseball team as a freshman is quite an accomplishment. I'm so proud of you, son. But I saw you pitch enough times to know that any team would be happy to have you. And Ron, I'm happy to meet you. So you play catcher on the team. Are you also here on an athletic scholarship, as Tommy is?
Hey man, yeah, nice to meet you. I'm not here on a scholarship because I don't need one. My dad is a congressman, so he wrote a check, and here I am.
That must be very interesting, Ron, to have a father who is in politics. Is he a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent? Oh, and by the way, catcher was my favorite position in baseball. That's what I was way back in the day, but I only played at the high school level. By the time I got to college as a physics major, it was nothing but studying for me. So, if you are the catcher, I guess you and Tommy here are not just dorm mates, but also battery mates. True.
Yeah. No, man, it's not that interesting to have a politician as a father. He is a so-called MAGA Republican. He is most of the time out of town, so I usually don't see him. But when I do, I hardly know him anymore. He has changed big time since he became a congressman. He doesn't believe in the same stuff anymore. It's like he just follows the party line and sticks to the script. As to whether Tommy and I are battery mates, the answer is not very often. He and I are both freshmen, but he's made the starting rotation, and I'm a bullpen catcher for now.
The good news, Grandfather, is that Ron and I can practice together in our spare time. I think that was the idea when he was assigned to be my roomie. He and I get along pretty well. We both love baseball, we seem to like the same kind of food, and we both are attracted to the cheerleaders. He has a different major, so we don't attend a lot of the same classes. But the main thing we have discovered is that we need to stay off of the subjects of politics and religion. In those areas, we have extremely different backgrounds and we seldom agree. So we just agreed to disagree and move on to other topics. That keeps things more harmonious.
Well, keeping the peace is always a good thing, boys. But remember, you came to college to learn, and a good debate between people of differing backgrounds can be very educational. Also, it is very important to be tolerant of those who you may not agree with. Just because your viewpoints differ, there is no need for rancor or negative emotional responses. Anger and hatred are not intelligent choices, and those who are reduced to such emotions are easily controlled. What I want for you, Tommy, my boy, is to grow into a man who can think for himself and not be controlled by the opinions or agendas of others. I would like to see you become someone who thinks for himself and is a leader rather than a follower. So although you both like pizza and cheerleaders and can agree on that, and so can I, the real opportunity here is to explore these areas where you differ, for that is where you can learn from each other and benefit. And if you can do this free of negative emotional reactions, you will take a giant step on your pathway to the maturity of evolving into the great men you are capable of becoming.
This is why I love your visits, dear Grandfather. You have such a big heart and so much wisdom. I wanted Ron to meet you because I am so proud to be your grandson.
Yeah, it's cool to meet you, old man, and your advice makes good sense. I know if my dad found out I have a progressive as a roommate, he would throw a fit. But he's so busy with his political career in Washington that he doesn't know what I'm doing or with who. I think he just stowed me away here so I wouldn't be a distraction for him. So it's cool, and I will take your advice, but don't expect me to buy into any liberal BS.
Well, Ron, I certainly do not want you to buy into any BS of any type. And that goes for both of you. This is your opportunity to see through any misinformation of any kind and be able to think for yourselves. That's my wish for you. Now, Ron, you are saying that your dad is too busy to be involved with your education here. But what about your mother? Does she come see you?
Hell no. She's a basket case. All she does is drink, obsess about what my dad's up to in Washington, and wonder whether he has a mistress there. Then she puts on her makeup and a happy face to attend church functions as if everything is fine with her when it's not. So no, I don't see her much now that I'm out of the house, which is just fine with me.
I'm sorry to hear that, Ron. It sounds difficult for you. Well, I am very involved with Tommy here, and hope to visit him whenever I'm invited. So when I'm here, you can think of me as a kind of a grandfather too, if you like. No pressure, but the offer is there.
That's cool, old man. Very woke of you. But I doubt that will be happening anytime soon. Anybody who is a progressive or a liberal is no granddad of mine, if you know what I mean.
Wow, Ron, show a little respect. He was just trying to be kind and supportive.
It's okay, Tommy. I like that about Ron. He honestly speaks his mind. As for my offer, Ron, it stands. If you ever need someone to talk to who will listen without judgment, I'm more than available. As to your political beliefs, you are young and still learning. So stay with that honesty you are showing here, and it will guide you well. Make sure your opinions are your own and not someone else's, and that any conclusions you arrive at are based in verifiable truth. There is much misinformation out there that is intended to lead people toward the agendas of others. So we must all be vigilant in these times to accept only that which we can verify as being the truth. As for the labels you chose for me of liberal or progressive, I personally view myself as a humanitarian. That is a title that has been less distorted by political misinformation. Words such as woke, liberal, and progressive have been misinterpreted for political reasons. So for me, it is as a humanitarian that I use to describe myself, and it is how I endeavor to live my life, working toward the highest good for all people, regardless of their beliefs, background, race, gender, or orientation. I call it unconditional love of humanity.
Yeah, it sounds woke to me, like a bleeding heart liberal. That love for all of humanity talk sounds like you're a globalist. Well, I believe in America first and freedom, and that's what MAGA Republicans believe in too.
See what I'm talking about here, grandfather? When it comes to politics or religion, Ron is totally programmed and just repeats slogans he has heard from right-wing news outlets. That's why I decided before to just avoid the subject.
Yeah, dude. But all you listen to is that liberal mumbo-jumbo on PBS. I prefer Fox News.
Well, when looking at the difference between PBS and Fox, one should look at the agenda of those who finance these outlets. In the case of Fox, it is financed by very large corporations and corporate billionaires who favor the huge tax breaks and the deregulation policies of the extreme right wing. In the case of PBS, they are funded by the viewing public of all political parties and also nonprofit foundations. Their motivation is toward music, the arts, environmental protection, and the sciences. There is a big contrast in motivation here. The Fox source of funds and therefore their political agenda wants to do away with government regulations designed to protect health, safety, and the environment. While PBS has no such agenda because their funding source is diverse and philanthropic. So excuse me if I prefer planetary protection and philanthropy over deregulation of large corporate billionaire profit interests. I'm fine with big companies making money, but not at the expense of the health and safety of the population and the planet.
Yeah, right. What about all those wealthy elite donors that the left has? You think they don't have an agenda? Give me a break, dude.
That's a good point, Ron. So let's take a look at the agendas of those who donate to the Democratic Party. It is a diverse group because the Democrats have a broad constituency. Small dollar donations from individuals to Democrats represented the vast majority of their fundraising. However, Democrats do enjoy some corporate support from the arts and entertainment industry of Hollywood and science-based corporations such as those of Silicon Valley and the medical industry, and most labor unions. This is because the Democratic economic platform is highly supportive of the arts, sciences, healthcare for all, quality education for all, and employment with a fair working wage. Republicans also receive political contributions from individuals, but the vast majority of their funding comes from corporations and corporate PACs. It is a well-known fact that large corporations benefit greatly from the tax breaks and deregulation that is central to the Republican economic platform. So statistics show that the big money support that is directed to the Republican Party comes from sectors such as big oil and the gun industry, and that this support is significantly higher than the large dollar donations received by Democrats. Those big money interests who do contribute to Republicans tend to do so for profit reasons, while the smaller number of big money donors that contribute to the Democratic Party do so for philosophical or humanitarian reasons. Under Republican leadership in Washington, the number of billionaires in America soared. with 404 individual billionaires controlling more wealth than the bottom half of the entire US population. This centralization of wealth at the top results in an increase in poverty and lack throughout the rest of culture. When poverty and lack are on the rise, so too is crime, homelessness, and poor insufficient healthcare. So these are things you will not hear from the corporate-funded media. That is where you will find the actual fake news. If you want the real news, I recommend relying upon those without an economic agenda. Tommy's Choice of PBS is a great place for you to start, Ron. I know it can feel more satisfying to listen only to a news source which reinforces your beliefs. But for real news rather than fake, I highly recommend that everyone take a close look at the funding behind the news source.
Oh, I see where you're headed. So you're saying that Democrats are supported by the people and Republicans by corporations, but aren't corporations made up of people?
Yes, they are, Ron. But like the Republican economic platform itself, in the corporate world, the vast majority of the funds are centralized at the top. So it is this billionaire class who heads the corporations and own the bulk of the corporate stock. These at the top benefit disproportionately from Republican policies, and not your secretaries and bookkeepers who work there. It's simple, really. Democrats favor spreading wealth across the entire society so that everyone rises. Republicans work to centralize the wealth to benefit their billionaire donors. The more that Republicans create policies for these oligarchs, the more they are compensated with massive donations. Let me ask you this. You said that your father is a Republican congressman. Am I right?
Yep, he's a member of the House of Representatives and has been a congressman for 8 years. Why do you ask?
I'll give you my reasoning in a second. But first, can you describe the house you live in? Is it large? Have you lived there long?
Hell yes, it's big, it's crazy. There's only my father, my mother, and me. But the freaking place is like a museum. It's on 20 acres with locked gates and security fencing all around. It's 10,000 square feet. It has a major swimming pool, a tennis court, and an 8-car garage. I miss the old neighborhood, to tell you the truth. This place is bonkers.
So you have this 8-car garage. I bet you have some nice vehicles in there. And what else can you think of? Do you have a boat, a plane, or a vacation home, for example?
Man, you are a curious old goat, aren't you?
Hey, Ron, show more respect for my grandfather. He's treated you kindly and deserves the same.
Yeah, I hear you, Tomster. No offense intended, I kinda like this old guy.
So you have this 8-car garage. I bet you have some nice vehicles in there. And what else can you think of? Do you have a boat, a plane, or a vacation home, for example?
All of the above, man. I drive a brand new Ranger Raptor, my mom has a Porsche, dad has a Land Rover and a Mercedes-Benz at home, and a Lexus at his townhouse in DC. We have a small fishing boat, a 40-foot cabin cruiser, and a ski cabin up in Snowmass, plus a bunch of other stuff, way too much for us to even use, in my opinion. It's weird because 10 years ago we lived in a small house and both mom and dad had to work to make ends meet. I guess being a politician is where the money is, whatever.
Well, Ron, that's really something. Now, we know that a congressman's salary is $174,000 per year. So where do you imagine all of that newfound wealth came from? The kind of wealth that allows your father to easily write a check to this university for your tuition and housing, which is over $100,000 per year. Why do you imagine your father is suddenly so wealthy?
Well, dude, that's politics, I guess, isn't it? It pays him pretty well and the hours are great, so can you blame him?
In my case, it is not so much about blaming these politicians whose votes can be purchased. It is just that I would never, ever vote for them, and I cannot imagine why anyone else would.
Thank you, dear friend, for watching this episode of Sky Mind Productions. To see any of the other ever-increasing number of stories and videos from Sky Mind, please subscribe below and place a like. Thank you again, and I wish you blessings along the way.